I am Bill Pearson, Director of Boston Healthcare Fellowship. Welcome to our videocast. In this episode, we look to Psalm 23 to address the concerns of residents as they begin their training here in the Boston hospitals. How do we think about these different stressors and things that are ahead of us? And how do we prepare ourselves to engage these things? At least these first three things, and then all these domains will impact us somehow. I was thinking about a very familiar passage, actually. It's something you've probably known for a long, long time, and that's Psalm 23. So if you have a Bible on your phone or nearby and you want to, look on with me, I'm just going to read this and just make some comments, and then send you guys off into your different training, your breakouts by hospital, so you guys can talk about this idea. But it starts like this, very familiar. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want. And a ministry colleague of mine kind of pointed out not too long ago that what's amazing about this is that, as sheep, our primary objective is to stay near the shepherd. And that when we're near the shepherd, what the psalmist says is, we shall not be in want. That we won't experience need, that we won't be diminished as humans. I think I'll turn off the sharing here. So yeah, I think we validated that at least this is a concern for the group overall. And so if the Lord is our shepherd, when he's our shepherd, we shall not want. So then the key then is staying close to the shepherd. And the problem is, as sheep, we all go astray. We kind of nibble our way away from Jesus, right? And so we find ourselves in want. And as I was thinking about all these issues of stress and all that comes with expectations, of dealing with justice in our world, of dealing with COVID, of dealing with opposition from enemies, and dealing with how to be authentically ourselves, Psalm 23 kind of addresses all these things, right? So the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. And so if we're worried about the stress of demands and everything else, the invitation is to stay near Jesus, and he will restore your soul. He'll lead you into those places where when you need it, he'll be there to do that for you. Goes on to say that he leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So that word is being a doer of justice. So if you're not sure if we're being doers of justice, when we stay near the shepherd, he will empower us and equip us to be doers of justice. Then it goes on to say, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, you comfort me. So yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we're in the shadow of death, but Jesus is with us, and he promises to be with us. Or if we're fearful of people opposing our faith, it says, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. And so even though you may be opposed, the thing is, when we're near the shepherd, he anoints us. He feeds us, even in the presence of our enemies. We don't have to be afraid to defend ourselves, to figure it all out. We can just sit down and have table fellowship with Jesus. And then if we're worried about, being ourselves and being at home with ourselves, it says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So it's interesting. A friend of mine recently talked about this idea of it shall follow me. It means that goodness and mercy, that the Hebrew there says it chases after you. So God's goodness and mercy will chase after us, and we will be at home with the Lord. And so, all these things are going to be true of our, true of our reality. We're not going to be able to make stress go away, expectations go away. The pandemic's probably not going away soon. Racial injustice is not going away soon. But the reality is, if we allow Jesus to be our shepherd, then we will not be in want. Even all of those challenges can't diminish us, and we will know his sufficiency and his grace in our lives. And so, and we are also invited to pray, right? And to work for God's kingdom to come and his will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so we can, be allies with Black Lives Matter. We can train ourselves to carefully deal with opposition to a Christian expression of healthcare. We can be concerned about burnout and moral injury. But the gift that we have is that every day the Lord is our shepherd, and we can stay near him. And when we do that, then we will not be in want. I most recently, before I came back here, was a middle-aged Christian on a medical school faculty. And I was amazed at how cynical and unbelieving a lot of my fellow believers were. They just didn't believe it was that simple. It was just that irritatingly simple, that if we stay near Jesus, we will not be in want. But that's the gift that he's given us. Jesus in John 10:27 said, "My sheep know my voice. I know them, and they follow me." And so I guess what I think what the text suggests, and what I want to suggest to you, is these are some wonderfully challenging years ahead of you and days ahead of you. But Jesus said only one thing was necessary, and that's to give our attention to him. And as we give our attention to him, that he will lead us. He will lead us to restoration. He will lead us through the valley of the shadow of death. He will lead us to be doers of justice. He will lead us to do all these things, right? And we don't have to figure it out all by ourselves. And that's a great gift to us. I came across in my Bible reading this morning a really odd passage that I'm not sure I should share, but so odd, it just seemed like it might be worth hearing. It's a story in Jeremiah 13. And God asked Jeremiah to essentially go buy a fresh pair of underwear and then to go bury it. A fresh loincloth to bury it. And then at some later time, he was told to go dig it up. It was like, what do you do with spoiled underwear, a spoiled garment? And then the Lord tells this to Jeremiah: "For as the loincloth clings to the waist of a man, so I made the whole house of Israel and the whole house of Judah cling to me, declares the Lord, that they might be for me a people, a name, a praise, and a glory, but they would not listen." So I don't know what you're thinking about God lately, but you probably haven't thought of him as wanting to be as close to you as your underwear. That's probably a new thought. That he wants you to cling to him and you to be his glory and his praise, but they would not listen. So here's a thought experiment that I'd like for you to think about. And this is what I want to send you into your groups to consider. And that is, when you think about this next season of your professional training and everything else, where is your attention? And I want you to think in terms of a vector. So if your attention is just on Jesus completely for your day-to-day, then that would be a +1. If your attention is focused on meeting professional expectations, that would be a -1. And if there's something in between, it would be maybe a 0, okay? So the effect of this would be either you're moving focused on Jesus, on him alone, trusting him that everything else will take care of itself, or the vector is away from Jesus, right? And this is what we tend to do as sheep. We just kind of nibble our way away from Jesus rather than staying near to him. And if you try to hold those two things in tension, you end up with kind of a zero effect vector, which means you sort of end up orbiting around Jesus, attempting not to get too far away from him, but maybe not also getting really close to him. And so we find ourselves in want. And so I guess the thing is, when you find yourself in want, maybe instead of, the circumstances or whatever else, trying to fix those things, maybe that's the invitation to have a vector that's more towards Jesus. So that's how I want to send you into your chat rooms. And we're going to send you by hospital. It'll be, a small group of 4+ people. And I'd like for you to introduce yourself and all the important stuff, all the things, your name, where you came from, what you're doing here. But then, be bold and vulnerable and honest with each other, and just talk about your current vector. You identify a more of a +1, a -1, a 0 right now. And just think about, how is it that you can stay near to Jesus in this year to come? Stay near to him through his word, through his spirit, and through his body. Often we think about Jesus is all we need, and that's true. But the Jesus that we need is manifest through his word and through the presence of the Holy Spirit and through his body. So that's how we access Jesus and how we know him to be our shepherd. So you can think about that. How is it we can do that in this very demanding and wonderful thing of training during your time here? So with that, I'm going to break you out, and I may not see some of you ever again until you're done with your training. I don't know, but I hope we cross paths during the midst of this pandemic. But our goal here tonight is for you to really meet each other and know each other, and know that you can have at least one brother or sister in the hospital that you can connect with and have fellowship with.